the wide receiver core, I would say maybe not the weakest unit on the team, but the most disappointing. And I think wholesome one, it's not just that it's the most disappointing, but it's the easiest one for your average fan to detect.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they watch line play, you really have to know what you're talking about and know what you're watching sometimes to see issues. Now, if a line's giving up 8 sacks a game, sure, we know that they're not good. But in regards to specific players along the offensive or defensive fronts and picking that out, that's why we rely on guys like you, or I really have to watch for things or rewatch a game. But the wide receiver play just in flat out dropping passes, and then against Clemson not being able to separate and gain those one-on-one matchups. I think that was the most disappointing position unit for me.
I agree. But I think it's also based on your perspective. You look at a guy as a Mark Pope, who, everybody's either 4 or 5 star recruit. I've had this conversation with you. I've had this conversation on my live. I think he was more of a, 4-star, 3-star type of guy, high 3-star, mid 4-star type of player. He went to a Rivals camp one day and went overboard, kind of like Robert Burns, how Robert Burns had that one day where he went crazy and everybody talked about him being this. Cam talks about this story from, like almost 3 years now. He's talked about that one story. Same thing happened with Mark Pope. Now, Pope is a good player, okay? But now he becomes your number one. Now, if need be, there's going to be double teams slided his way if we're talking about strictly receiver. When you talk about the University of Miami, if anyone's getting double teamed, it's probably Brevin Jordan or they're just loading the box. And mostly they're doing both because you can load the box and double because it's all the tight end is in the box. Our run game was the best thing that we had going for us, whether that was from De'Aaron King or the staple of running backs that we had. So they were able to load the box against us every team, put at least 7 people in the box because that way I can double team backs, I can double team tight ends, and I can also play contain with my rush, keeping De'Aaron King in the pocket. So, and we weren't able to force teams, excluding NC State, to push off and keep the 2 high against us and open up the box so that the run game also gets going. And also you have Brevin Jordan down the seams or Will Mallory down the seams. Now, we do have some breaking news that I want to drop on your channel in a second here, but I'll go ahead and answer this question just to continue, all right? I think we have to preference our statements when it comes to our wide receivers. What did we all think was going to happen is what we have to ask ourselves. Yes, you bring in a valuable wide receivers coach and Coach Rob Likens. The wide receivers started to show up a little bit, yes. But I by no means am saying the way that they have dropped balls egregiously, how they've been out of position, how they haven't fought for the ball, how they don't know whether to attack it at the highest point, whether to catch it in stride, whether to catch it and fall. They have not gotten to that point where we're a well-oiled machine, let alone a well-oiled program across the board. So I think the point the finger at wide receivers is not really fair to everybody because this program has so much growth that needs to happen from the core out. But to answer your question, there are a couple groups that had a lot of growth and a couple of them that also went down. Wide receiver, I think, is one that had growth, but they did not meet the expectation that every Miami Hurricane comes on and thinks that just because this young man wears number 6, he must be Santana Moss. Or just because this young man is 6'3", he has to be Andre Johnson. That's our fault. That's not their fault. D. Wiggs is a 3-star solid recruit. He's not a top 3 wide receiver in the country like Andre Johnson was when he put pen to paper to sign to the University of Miami. So I think we as fans have to definitely understand the pressure. And every institution has pressure. I mean, you signed at Ohio State. There's some big-time wide receivers that have been through there recently. But that doesn't mean that you have to be him. But guess what? They're signing top tier. Okay, I can expect closer to Andre Johnson if I'm signing a Jalen Hazelwood, if I'm signing a Jerry Jeudy, than if I'm signing a young man who's a 3-star and expecting him just because he wears the same logo and number to be the exact same player. We can't do that. And we just got quality coaching at that position for the first time in 17 years. So that's a conversation that a lot of us are having amongst the fan bases now. At a point where we have a chance to bring in better coaches, we need to go the route of the University of Miami is not a place where you come and learn. We need to hire well-established coaches and bring them in. Same thing that we did on the offensive side of the ball. We brought in well-established Rob Likens. We brought in Coach Red Ladd, who's pretty established in his ways. Garen Justice a little bit. Stephen Fields a little bit. But at key positions, we brought in well-established coaches. We shouldn't be just promoting from within on the defensive side of the ball. We don't need to do that anymore. We don't need to take a flyer on a young up-and-coming. No, go get well-established coaches. I'm tired of coming here, Mark, for the last 3 years, and we're still wasting players. We can't keep doing that to young men and expect them to trust their futures to us. We need to go out and get established coaches.